Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this captivating webinar, What's New with VMware Tanzu Application Platform 1.6. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here alongside two remarkable speakers, Miles and Ben. But before we dive into their expertise, let's take a moment to cover a few essential details. This session is designed to be interactive, so don't hesitate to ask us anything using the Ask Question box below. We'll make it a mission to address all of your inquiries live during this presentation. And in the rare event that the time runs out, rest assured we'll follow up with you in a detailed response via email. Without further ado, let's pass the torch to our inspiring speakers, Miles and Ben, and get ready to be inspired and engaged with the incredible session ahead.
Great. Thank you, Marcella. And thank you all for joining. So just to kick us off, before we get into the presentation, we have two quick polls that we want to run to see where people are at, and it's actually going to help us tailor the session a little bit, maybe some of the things that we can focus on. So you'll notice in the announcement section of the platform here that there's a link to menti.com, and there's a poll in there. If you wouldn't mind clicking on that and then going in and just dropping in your votes for this question and the other question as well, just to sort of help us evaluate where people are at and what kind of level we're talking to, what kind of content is useful for you. So I'm going to stop sharing that. We'll come back to that in a bit, but if you could fill that out in the meantime, that would be really cool. So if we go back over to our slides here, I'll introduce myself and then I'll hand it over to Ben. My name is Miles. I work in technical marketing on the Tanzu application platform, and I focus on the operator side or the platform engineering side of Tanzu application platform.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ben Wilcock. I'm also a technical marketer. I work alongside Miles in the same team here at VMware, and I try and specialize in the developer experience aspects of working with platforms like Tanzu Application Platform and also Tanzu Developer Portal. So thanks for giving us your time today. Really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's continue. Miles, what's next?
What is next, indeed? We've done our intros. I probably should have had that slide up, but here we are. So
we'll just, no QR codes for you.
Yes, exactly. There they are if you're really, really quick. So we'll dive into the agenda. Today, we're doing a What's New talk on Tanzu Application Platform. So we're not going to go into the basics of the platform, what it's meant to do, who it's meant to cater for, that kind of stuff. Really what we're focused on here is some of the high-level improvements that we've made to the platform in the newest release, which as of today is 1.6, with another one just around the corner as well. So we'll do a brief introduction to the platform to make sure that everyone's on the same level, because I'm having a little look at the Menti results here, and I'm seeing we've got quite a mixture of people between people that are actually using it, some that are brand new to it today, but actually quite a lot of you have already seen another talk, so this might work out quite well. So we'll do a What's New, so we'll just do a high-level feature comparison, and then Ben and myself have picked out a few features, and we're going to live demo those features for you to show you the improvements in action. So let's have a look into it. So for those of you that are new here, today is your first day with the Tanzu application platform. It is a platform designed to help developers go from code to URL with minimal friction, but still allowing the platform engineering team to have all of the authority, control, and security that they require to get code to production safely, repeatably, and doing that on top of any Kubernetes. So the Tanzu application platform is built to run on top of Kubernetes. And the beauty of Kubernetes is it allows you to run your platform or your application on any underlying infrastructure. So we support GKE, Amazon AWS EKS, Azure AKS, OpenShift, and of course, our own Tanzu Kubernetes distribution as well. So no matter what type of Kubernetes you have, TAP can run on top of it and can provide a platform for your business for getting your code to production. It's got three main tenets. So the first one is boost developer productivity. That's what Ben's going to talk to you about. So it's all about keeping the developer in their IDE, making them productive, and making sure that they have as few context switches as possible, so that all the information that they need is inside the GUI. The docs are there, the APIs are there, all that kind of information is there to stop this back and forth, go talk to this team, go log a ticket for X and Y. Then we've got the operators catered for in this sort of build faster, more secure paths to production. I'll talk about this a little bit in my section, but we have this concept of secure software supply chains, which are kind of like a pipeline, but a lot more generic and actually quite a lot more dynamic and powerful. What I mean by that is essentially you could have conceivably one pipeline that delivers applications of many different languages, frameworks, versions to production without having to have duplicates of those pipelines, reducing toil and what have you associated with managing pipelines for different applications at scale. And the third part is kind of a consequence of the other two. We're catering for the developers and the operators. What happens whenever you coordinate dev and ops? You get DevOps. And security is just implicit with the platform as well. Like every single step, and we'll see this in my demo, but every single step is checksummed, stored, and verified before something can run in production. So security is just an implicit part of the platform. All right, so if we have a little look at this from a high level, the dev side is green, the ops side is blue. On the dev side, we've got Learn, which allows developers to get up and running quickly with the platform. So we have Learning Center built into the platform, which provides labs that allow developers to get familiar with the tooling, or even if you have your own libraries or binaries or what have you that you want developers that are being onboarded in your organization to learn, they'll be inside Learning Center so that they can go through, as part of their onboarding procedure, a set of learning activities to get them up to speed quickly. Then there's Discover and Start, and Ben's going to cover some of this. So we have a number of application templates, we call them app accelerators, that allow developers to have good known starting points that are pre-approved by the organization. So instead of a developer, reinventing the stack for every single application they build, you've got pre-approved, language that you're using, framework, versions. There's some binaries in there, maybe some custom libraries. They're all packaged up into an application accelerator. So the developer just puts in a name, maybe some version information, and they get out a working repository that allows them to just get running and building application logic as quickly as possible. Then we've got the iterate. So the iterate debug cycle is obviously where developers spend almost all of their time. So they're iterating on an application, improving it, changing it over time, and then they're debugging those changes. They're going back to iterate and they're debugging. So we've got some IDE plugins and some developer tooling to help with that. On the operator side, then, we've got a lot of stuff catering to how that code gets to production. And that's all based on this concept of choreography. So we've got a pipeline service and a build service that take care of that built into the platform. As part of that, you'll have your test and build steps. So, application testing, unit tests, feature verification tests, what have you, building those applications into containers. And interestingly, you don't need Docker files in Tanzu application platform. You can, of course, use them if you have them already, but we will introspect the code that's given to the platform and automatically build a container out of it that's secure by default, without having to have any expertise in how to build a Docker container. Scan, sign, and store, like I said, security is just an implicit part of this platform. It's one of the main reasons that we built it, is that we want to make sure that there's code provenance all the way from the Git repository right to being deployed. So every single step is checksummed, we verify it, we scan for vulnerabilities, we make sure that those all meet policy, all that good stuff before they get deployed. Then we've got deploy. So we build out a Kubernetes manifest that is best suited to that application. So how do you get that K8s app to run best on Kubernetes? So if it's Java, maybe it has a min scale of 1 because it's got a slow startup time. Maybe it's got a higher RAM allocation because Java. But if you're running something like a Python function, maybe it runs a different configuration. So we build out the Kubernetes configuration. And finally, we run that on your Kubernetes cluster. And by default, that's using something called Knative, which is a serverless framework built on top of Kubernetes. And additionally, it's not just a single run cluster. We fully expect Tanzu application platform to be deploying to many or n run clusters, right? There is essentially no scaling limit on that because it's decoupled to us via GitOps. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Ben, and Ben's going to go through the improvements in TAP 1.6 for the dev. Then I'll look at some of the app stuff, and then we'll get into some demo.
That sounds good. Thanks, Miles. So can I have a reminder of what's currently going on with the Menti? So what sort of spread of different folks have we got today?
Yeah, let's have a little look at that. Let me bring up the thing that we were looking at earlier. So hopefully you can see that. So
okay, yeah.
There you go.
So today's my first day too. I've seen other talks, 6. All right. So we've got quite a few things to show you today, and they're sort of, because this is a TAP 1.6 What's New webinar, we've picked things that are sort of new in 1.6. If you'd like to see the sort of whole experience in a bit more detail, maybe from a sort of beginner's guide, a starter's guide, if you like, then we do have other webinars available. You can search on BrightTalk for Introduction to Tanzu Application Platform. You'll see Miles and myself and others talking at length about how to sort of get started. So we do have other stuff available, but we'll try and include as many folks as we can. But yeah, some of the stuff that we've got to show today is sort of picked from different parts of the platform. And if you haven't seen the whole platform before, you might find it a bit confusing. We'll try our best to reduce that confusion as much as possible. Okay, Miles, give us a slide then. Let's have a look.
Yeah, one more thing just before we get back into the slide. I've advanced the Menti, so there's one more poll up there for you. So if you wouldn't mind giving that fill in, and it can help us direct what we're going to build in future.
Nice, thank you. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Slide.
All right, slides. So what have we added in TAP 1.6? So it's worth mentioning at this point, there have been 7 releases of TAP so far, from 1.0 through 1.6. So every kind of 3 months or so, there's a new release of the Tanzu application platform. So we're adding more and more features all the time. These are just the features that we've added in the very latest release over the last quarter or so. So with that said, let's go into a bit more detail. So first one I wanted to call out was a thing called local source proxy. Local source proxy essentially simplifies some of the developer experience associated with TAP. Not necessarily a great deal for developers, although it does reduce the need for things like a local installation of Docker, for example. So it does reduce the prerequisites and the getting started requirements. But also for platform engineers, it prevents the need to be able to have to proliferate credentials and things for a Docker compatible registry, an OCI registry, to developers who are using the platform. Developers using the platform do need a registry. It's a way that we can swap image layers between the local developer experience and the Tanzu application clusters that are running on Kubernetes. So it is required, but what we've done in this release is created a mechanism called the local source proxy that just simplifies the whole thing. It means that you no longer have to distribute endpoints and credentials and that sort of thing to developers. So that's really good. It saves you a lot of sort of setup time, if you like. The other one from this list that I want to call out straight away is the Spring Framework 6 native support. So if you're familiar with native images and you're working with Spring Framework and Java, you've probably heard of things like GraalVM. We now have the ability to just take those software components that you've built with Spring and essentially turn them into native images using the usual supply chain. So you can essentially then deploy to production environments all your native images, which of course, if you're familiar with native image, you'll know that that essentially means you get faster startup times and you get usually a reduced sort of RAM overhead as well. So it's useful if you've got lots and lots of applications, for example, might be able to use less RAM overall. And if you're doing things like serverless, or you need fast, really fast startup times with your Java applications, then it's definitely worth investigating. So we support that now in the supply chains themselves, which is great. The other thing I'm going to call out, but also show you hopefully, is that first of all, the Tanzu CLI is easier to get hold of, which is brilliant. And we also have IDE plugins in the marketplaces that you would expect to find them. So I can demonstrate some of that for you if you like. If you just let me share my screen, and then I'll show you a few bits and pieces so you can revel in the amazing new features of Tanzu Application Platform 1.6. So here we go. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. What I've left on the screen is the blog post that talks all about Tanzu Application Platform 1.6, written by our amazing colleague Nice. You can find that on the Tanzu website. I guess we can also put links in the show notes and things. But if you scroll through that, you'll see all the different features and stuff that we're talking about today, including the native image compilation and more. So I just thought I'd leave that on the screen. But what I wanted to show you was, first of all, getting the Tanzu CLI is now easier than ever because it's been included in common package managers. They include Chocolatey. So if you're on Windows, you can use Choco install to get your Tanzu CLI. If you're on Mac OS, then you can use Homebrew. I use Homebrew. I don't use Mac OS. I use Linux, but I'm using Homebrew as well. So you can see I've installed it through Homebrew. I've got the Tanzu CLI through Homebrew on my machine as well. And if you're using Ubuntu, you can get it through an additional APT repository. And similarly, if you're using any of the sort of Red Hat releases, right, Red Hat Enterprise Linux or Fedora or anything like that, you can also get them through the regular DNF or Yum package managers. So that's awesome, because you don't have to go and visit the website anymore. You don't have to download the binary. You don't have to include the binary in your path. All that's taken care of by these package managers for you. So you can get the Tanzu Application Platform's CLI very quickly. And that means that you can do stuff with it that's useful, like find out which application workloads am I running at the moment, as I've got on this screen here. Or maybe you're interested in digging down into an individual workload. Well, you can do that as well, including all the details about the supply chain that it went through, how it was delivered onto the platform, the pods that are associated with that delivery, and of course, most importantly, the URL where you'll actually find that application. I've actually got this application running at the moment. So if I go over here, yeah, there we go, application running on the platform. So that's really good. That saves a lot of hassle. The other thing that we've done is along similar lines. We have also added the Tanzu IDE tools to popular marketplaces for those IDEs. So in this particular case, I use Visual Studio a lot. Sorry, Visual Studio Code, I should say more accurately. And that has a couple of plugins from VMware for Tanzu, and now you can find them in the regular marketplace. So you can go in there, find those tools, have a look at them, but also, of course, that means it's integrated with the IDE. So if you have a look at the extensions, do a search for Tanzu, you will find the extension straight away. You'll be able to install them and use them inside your IDE. So while we're inside the IDE, was there a question?
There was, but it's one that we can address a bit later on.
Awesome. Okay. So while we're in the IDE, let's take a look at a few more bits and pieces. So I've already integrated these two extensions into my IDE, so I already have them available. That really improves my developer experience because I can benefit from some of the things, the features that are made available to developers through Tanzu Application Platform, things like accelerators. So very quick reminder for those who've perhaps heard it before, accelerators are a way of delivering ready-made coding templates to developers. So if you have a particular way that you like to write your code in your organization, maybe you have particular libraries, maybe you need particular config and setup, maybe you need particular monitoring tools included, then you can add all of that stuff to a template called an accelerator and then use those accelerators to get started very quickly on new application coding projects. So in the IDE here, I have a whole list of accelerators, pardon me. And if I choose one, then I can then go through basically a wizard that allows me to configure that application, click a few buttons, and hey presto, it opens inside my IDE. So that saves me an awful lot of hassle. The other extension that I wanted to talk about was the Tanzu developer tool. So that's an integration with the Tanzu application platform itself that starts to surface lots of information about the different workloads that you have running on the application platform itself. So in this window here, for example, I can see all the workloads and the state that they're in. I have one, the Spring Boot Maven workload here, that's actually in a live update state, and maybe I'll show you that in just a second. But I also wanted to draw your attention to this extra window down here, which gives us more details on each of those workloads, including the sorts of information like what made up the supply chain for that workload, how was it delivered to the platform, all that sort of stuff. And of course, when there are issues, like in this case, we've staged an issue where there is a vulnerability in a piece of code, then those issues are also surfaced to you, and you can do some right-clicking and find information all about those particular components using the usual sort of describe mechanism. So it's all integrated together. You can see what's going on the platform very easily. Right from inside your IDE, and you have a whole bunch of sort of right-click features as well. So if you're working on an application as I am here, you can right-click and you can choose to do different things with it. You can send it to the platform, which is what apply means. You just send it to the platform so it run on the platform. Of course, you can remove it. If you've got something running you no longer want it on the platform, you can remove it from here using delete. But you can also do things like debugging. So you can start a debugging session. It will open a port between yourself and the application that's running on the platform in the cloud on Kubernetes, and then you can start to debug it live with breakpoints and all the usual debugging goodness. And this other feature, live update, which actually allowed you to literally change code while it's sat on the platform and then see the impact of those code changes. I can demonstrate that very quickly if you like. So here, for example, I've got some REST calls that I can make into an application. Let's just send this one, and I get a response back from the application platform, the workload that's running on the platform. It's telling me a load of details about this particular app. Let's say I wanted to change that though and add something new. Let's add a new line here. So if I make that change to my code, this is my local code, and then I save that change, it very quickly gets synced to the platform. Just takes a few seconds. And then if I go back and rerun that same send request, what we should notice is I now get an extra message. So I can change code and experiment with code in my sort of developer sandbox that's running on Kubernetes, and I can maintain all the usual integrations. So I can keep my connections to databases, I can keep my application SSO running, for example. I can do all sorts of things, experiment with the workloads while they're actually running live on the platform. So that's pretty good. And as you can see, our integration with IDEs is growing. In this particular case, it's Visual Studio Code, but I'm pretty sure that almost everything I've shown you is already available in IntelliJ as well. And there are some aspects also in regular Visual Studio, which .NET users will really appreciate. So that's, was there a question?
Nope.
Oh, sorry, I heard something. There's some feedback coming from somewhere. Okay, right, I'll carry on then. So great that there's all this stuff in the IDE, because it means that I don't really have to go looking for GUIs elsewhere very often. But when I do with Tanzu Application Platform, I'm particularly blessed because I have a whole backstage-based developer portal, which I can use to go and find information about my own apps, but also the apps of all my colleagues and all the things that they're running on the platform as well. So it provides us a sort of a central focal point for us all to be able to share information about our applications, share what we've done, share how they're integrated, share the APIs for them, all that sort of stuff. It's all included in this backstage-based GUI that we have for Tanzu Application Platform, which we call the Tanzu Developer Portal. So I'm showing you the portal right now, and the kind of home screen, if you like, is a list of, well, all sorts of things, APIs, components, different individuals who might be responsible for looking after components, the different systems themselves. So if I have a look at systems, for example, I've got this one here, which is related to the Spring Boot Maven project that I showed you earlier. I can drill into that and find different bits of information, like how is it related to other applications in its group. It's particularly good for microservices if you're trying to demystify how a microservice might relate to others all around it. So I've got lots of stuff that I can get there. I've also got great documentation. Backstage, if you're familiar with it, uses a system called TechDocs. These can be really rich, really high quality documentation for your components and for your systems. I'll show you through a few of these here. So this is a set of technical documentation that's for the portal itself, for example. We can share information about where to find more stuff. We can have these nice sort of widgets and drop downs and all sorts of other things, just to give you a really nice place to share information about all your applications and your systems with the other developers that are around you. We talked about the accelerators earlier. They're also available in the portal, exactly the same accelerators that you saw in the IDE. And again, you can go through, you can even have a look at the source code for those. You can choose them and configure them just as I did in the IDE. You can even explore around them before you've actually generated anything. So you can get a really good idea of what it is exactly you're going to have delivered to you when you use that accelerator. So that's really cool. We also have the ability to share information about APIs. So you can use, for example, Open API specification to have a look at all the different features that are available through a API that's associated maybe with a RESTful service, for example. In this particular case, it's quite a simple RESTful service, but it does also give me the ability to try it out. So if I click here to try it out and then execute, I'll get a response back about what's happening on the platform. Oh, actually, it looks like I've made a coding error somewhere. Oh, no, there we go. Yeah, I've got a sample down there. So you'll get basically a key value pairing, multiple key value pairings with that particular one. So there's lots of ways to explore the stuff that's going on around you. And then also in the developer portal, we've got information about supply chains and security analysis as well. So you can dig into further detail about what's going on the way that your applications are being delivered. But Miles, I don't want to jump the gun. I'm pretty sure you'll probably want to speak about some of that perhaps. So maybe this is a good point for me to leave it and hand over to yourself. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. So what I might do is just bring up our Menti to show where we're at. So hopefully that's displaying.
It's not for me, but it might be for others.
No, I think it's a me problem as usual. Let me share again. There we go. Okay, so we can see a couple of folks are interested in dev experience and dev portal. You'll be glad to hear, Ben.
I am.
A lot of folks interested in platform engineering, which is good because that's what TAP is all about. You know, we're building a platform using platform engineering practices for developers. Also providing services to devs, which is good because that's some of the new features in 1.6 that we're going to talk about. And CVE scanning and triage, which is also new in 1.6, or at least a portion of it is new in 1.6. So cool. Let's have a little look at the slide again then, and then I'll jump into the dev portion. So to continue on from where Ben left off, CVE triaging. So like I said, we've had CVE scanning, result storing, policy management, that kind of stuff in TAP since GA. So it's always been in the platform. We've been improving that over time. So we've been adding more and more plugins for different scanners. We actually have support now in 1.6 for bring your own scanner, which is a beta feature. So if you have your own scanner that is your favorite, you can bring that along and you can integrate it in the platform too. A new thing though is CVE triaging. So we'll see in the platform once I go in and show you it live how we display those CVEs, how that feedback is provided to the security ops team, or even just the ops team themselves if you don't have a dedicated security team. You'll get a list of the CVEs with the severity, details on the severity, links out to the CVE MITRE database or the GitHub security advisory or whatever it is. But there wasn't information on what is being done about that CVE. So let's say hypothetically there's a CVE in an application. You, as the security team, have decided to work with dev fixing given vulnerability. There's nothing there, or there was nothing there prior to 1.6 to tell you that is in triage, right? It's being remediated. We're doing something about that. So in 1.6, we have a new CLI feature that allows you to add notes and add a status to a given CVE. So if there is one that you're concerned with, or there's one that you're working on, then you can mark that as, say, in progress. So if someone else is going to work on CVEs, they'll be able to see what is currently being done. So if you want to add arbitrary comments in there, or status, or maybe a Jira task, or whatever it is, you can add arbitrary information. We're improving that going forward. The aim is to have a better UX, so maybe something GUI driven. Right now, our alpha release for this actually is CLI only, but it is a feature that's there that you can use. On the topic of providing services to developers, in 1.4, we built in the ability to provision services for developers in a static fashion. So the operators would go in, stand up an instance, make it available to be claimed by a developer. The developer could go claim it. If you look at our 1.5 list that we have on the left-hand side, the third bullet, rather, is dynamic provisioning of multi-cloud services. So we took what was static in 1.4, we made it dynamic so that the developers could then claim those in self-service fashion, have them provisioned on demand for them, and then bind them into their applications automatically. And that includes services that are not native to KIDS. So those could be external services like a database, like some kind of custom internal API, could be an RDS database if that's what you're requesting. It can reach out to, say, public clouds and request services there and pull the credentials back in, give them to the application. But in 1.6, we've added some more Bitnami services to it. So you might remember a couple of years ago, we acquired Bitnami. We've had a couple of services in there for a while now. So we've had RabbitMQ, Tanzu SQL, amongst others. But in 1.6, we've added MongoDB and Kafka to the out-of-the-box supported services as well. So as a platform engineer or platform operator, these services would now be available for your developers to claim from. So they could claim a MongoDB instance, a Kafka queue, for example, and it can go and create either a full Kafka instance or even a queue on an existing Kafka instance. And then the other three, which are in bold, because I'm going to show you what they actually look like, are enhancements to the software bill of materials. So this is something that's very closely linked to CVE triaging, CVE scanning. We've had software bill of materials for some time in the platform now, basically since 1.1. But we've enhanced how you can gain access to that, what formats are available, how you can ingest them into third-party tools, that kind of thing. We have an enhanced log viewer as well, and a quick start via TMC. So if you want to get up and running quickly with the platform without having to install any tooling to set up or manage the platform itself, you can do that via Tanzu Mission Control. So I figure the best way to show these things, or to talk about these things, is just to show them. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to share my screen again. And we're back inside the Tanzu application platform. This is the very same one that Ben was talking about a moment ago. And what we're going to start off with is the CVE scanning end of things. So if we have a little look at, say, Node Express here, we go into our source scanner, you can see that we've got, under our source scan, we've got a number of vulnerabilities in here. So there's a low, there's a couple of mediums, and there's a high. There is actually conveniently only 5 CVEs in this one. I can filter by severity or what have you. But what we've added in 1.6 is this new SBOM section here. So there are a number of different formats that are used for software bill of materials, either by third-party services or people have personal preferences on what specification that they like to interact with. And the big ones are SPDX and Cyclone DX. We also have it available as a just plain text output if you want to use the CLI as well. So if you just want a list of CVEs and the severities, you can get that via CLI too. But by and large, whenever customers are asking for this kind of information, it's Cyclone DX or SPDX. And you can see these are in JSON for both, or Cyclone DX for XML, because that specification supports XML. So if you have a triaging tool for CVEs and it imports SBOMs, there are 2 open standards that you can now download and upload to your third-party platform. You obviously don't have to do this manually. This is available via API. So if you want to pull this down via API or have something that pulls this information and pushes it into your CVE management solution, you can of course do that as well. So that's a small improvement that we made. I wanted to show the security analysis dashboard as well, just so that you get an idea behind the triaging thing that we've added. Like I say, that it's CLI only at the minute. But whenever you go in to look at an application, so say we've got this MOAD vulnerable app here, very ominously named, you'll note, but it's failed because of 13 violations, right? So there's been 13 critical CVEs found in this thing. Not surprising, it's using the FFmpeg package, and that's kind of just how it is with that package. So we can see here, indeed, the CVE ID, the severity, the package that's affected, the version, how many workloads are affected by it, which is also interesting, and a description. But we've received feedback from customers that they would like to see we are ignoring the CVE, right? So say the first one here, we've reviewed it, we've decided that it's not a vulnerability that we're actually exposed to, it's false positive, that they would like to have some indication or some status of that in the platform. So while it's not in the UI yet, it is something that you can apply a status to via the CLI to say, okay, this is ignored, this one's in triage, maybe add some notes around it. And then whenever we release the UI update, that information will be able to be viewed within the UI, and you can filter on it and all that kind of stuff as well. So let's have another look at our feature list, see where we are. So we had SBOM enhancements. So enhanced log view. This is something that's been I've been waiting for a while, to be honest. Now it's been okay. It's functional in the past. But it's definitely a lot more pleasant to use nowadays. So if I take one of these applications and I pick something that's got a task attached to it, you can always view the build output, all that kind of stuff from the pods that do the work underneath the platform. So if you're debugging something, say a build is failing, you can view those build logs. But it was just a plain text output. There was no syntax highlighting. It was fine, it did the job, but it definitely needed improvement. So if we have a look now, it's broken down into the individual steps for each of those tasks. So this task, you'll note, has 3 steps. So there's a prepare, a place scripts, and then there's a step publish. So you can see here, we have all of the logs that are in that particular step. Interestingly, we also pull in the specification for that task as well. So you can see in this case, this one is doing some work behind what Ben showed you around tech docs. So the technical documentation is just treated like application code. So it lives alongside the application, it runs through a pipeline, and then it gets automatically rendered out, uploaded to an S3 bucket via a task. And you can see it, this is how it pulls in the credentials for that AWS bucket, and then how it pushes it out to the cluster itself. So that's a really nice feature. It makes it much easier whenever you're debugging more complex applications that are multi-step, multitask. And the last big thing that I kind of want to show you here is installing Tanzu application platform if you're getting started. And this comes back to the question, one of the questions that was asked at the start here, which is the VMware Tanzu application platform open source and free for developers to use locally, which is a fantastic question and one that we do get quite often. So to be completely upfront, the Tanzu application platform is largely based on open source software. And the vast majority of code that we've written for it is open sourced or is being open sourced. But as of today, it is not 100% open source. It's just the way it is right now. That might change in future, but we haven't made a commitment to that. But Cartographer, the main underlying component from the operator side, is fully open source. That's a CNCF project that we have pushed upstream, along with a bunch of other things like cloud native build packs. Again, that's something that we developed with Heroku. It's open source. You're able to build and use that yourself. So 90% of the platform is based on open source componentry, and we've done a lot of gluing, stitching together to make the experience as seamless as possible, because at the end of the day, we've all seen the CNCF landscape. We know there's tons of tools, but integrating them is the hard part, and that's what we've done with the platform. With regard to the question around, can the developer download and run it locally? You could, if you wanted to. I would recommend against it, simply because, like, if you haven't got it by now, like, this is quite a big platform. There is a lot of stuff going on in here, and there's a lot of very heavy lifting. Like, it's doing application builds, CVE scans. Like, these are CPU and RAM heavy tasks. Unless you have an absolute tank of a laptop, you probably don't want to run the platform locally. Like, it's designed to run on top of Kubernetes. So the way that we generally see this done in development teams, so if developers want to use this platform themselves, they'll have their platform engineering team or their ops team deploy TAP for them in what we call an iterate cluster. So it's like a lightweight version of, the full featured all the paths to prod type installation of TAP. And that'll allow you stuff like, live debug and all those kinds of things, which would be disabled on a production install, because you don't want people live updating code as it's in production. So typically what we see people do is deploy an iterate cluster for maybe a project or a team or what have you, and then they go and they create namespaces inside there for the individuals, and that's what you would use. So if you want to get up and running with it, I would say by far the easiest way to do that is the guided installer in Tanzu Mission Control. So we're in Tanzu Mission Control here. A little bit earlier on, I deployed an EKS cluster, just a standard Amazon EKS cluster. There's no special magic going on here. It's just an out-of-the-box cluster, but I deployed it by TMC so that I can manage it and apply policies to it if I want to. The main reason is TMC has a built-in sort of wizard quick start installer for the Tanzu application platform. So we've got our cluster. I go to the catalog over here. You can see there's a bunch of different ways to install things. So we've got some Tanzu packages we could install if we wanted to. There's Helm charts if we want to deploy it that way. Or we've got this new tab, Solutions, which is only including TAP today. Maybe other solutions in future, wink, wink. But if we want to go install Tanzu application platform, we pick a cluster. So I call my cluster TAP cluster. TAP something, TAP what's new, there it is. So it's going to run some verification against the cluster. So if I pick another cluster, I'll show you one that I know for a fact doesn't work. So if we choose Arsalan's here that's running on vSphere, you can see it says it doesn't meet the requirements of the platform. So it says it needs to be at least KITS 1.25 to 1.27. It's currently running 1.23. The amount of disk space, the size of the node. So we do health check-in. We make sure that the application can actually run on the platform itself. So if we go ahead and choose our TAP What's New cluster, we'll give it a name. So TAP install say. And down here we choose our version, so 1.6.2, which is the latest. And I can choose to configure this in a number of different ways. So I can paste in a YAML file if I have a YAML rendering of the application of the platform itself. So whenever you install TAP, TAP is in and of itself a Kubernetes application, so it's declarative. So whenever you deploy it, the configuration is code. Now, if you don't know what the various parameters do, no problem. We have a guided installer for that as well. So we've got this form over here. It's got each of the objects and a description, and you can go in and edit these. So if I wanted to edit that, I could flip that to true or whatever. That'll update my YAML, and off I go. So if I wanted to say, do I agree to the customer experience index improvement? True. And you can see down here it's saying, okay, you need to fill in these things for the application or for the platform itself to deploy successfully. And then you can view more documentation about what the various fields are and how they work. You can view our changes, versus what was in there to begin with. Once we filled all that information out, we can click Install Tap, and off it goes, and it'll install you a fully functioning Tap cluster on top of whatever your Kubernetes cluster was. You get a URL, you click the URL, and you will be up and running with Tap the same way that we are. So that's one of the big improvements. Now, this is a first pass at this installer. This is like a V0.5, I would say here. This is functional. It does the job, just like our logs did the job back in the day. We know that there are improvements here. We fed this back to PM, and there are going to be many more UX improvements here, a lot more health checking, making it easier to get up and running, integrations with other things. So that's something that we're constantly looking at improving and will be improving. Again, Tanzu Mission Control is a SaaS product. It's constantly updating. So I'm going to jump back to our deck because I'm going to hit all the bits and pieces that I wanted to hit. And we'll open it up for Q&A.
Miles, just before we do that, one thing that we should possibly mention for any developers out there who are interested in trying out Tanzu application platform, they can do that without installing anything by using the Tanzu Academy, right? So the Tanzu Academy has a Tanzu application platform. We call it the Developer Sandbox. You can go there. It will create an ephemeral environment. It's just like having an operator in the background do it for you. Takes a couple of minutes, and then you'll be able to try it out. You'll be able to do some of the things that I demonstrated around running accelerators, or maybe deploying code onto the platform, and basically having a play about with the Backstage-based Tanzu developer portal GUI as well. So we can put a link to that in the show notes, but basically it's tanzu.academy/guides/developer-sandbox. So we'll put that in the guide, but in the show notes. But yeah, we do have something available. So you don't need to install anything locally other than maybe the prerequisites for using Tanzu anyway, such as the Tanzu CLI from your package manager and any IDE plugins that you want. And you'll probably have to configure kubectl, but I understand that you get the configuration file as part of your registration process when you go and use that sandbox.
Yeah, and one of our colleagues, Keith, is saying that there's a really good Spring Boot course as well on spring.academy if you want to get up and running with the Tanzu application platform from more of a developer side of things. If you just want to submit some code, see how it runs in that kind of Spring environment, there's the spring.academy. If you look for update a Spring Boot app in cloud, and you'll find that there as well. Cool. We're open for questions, so if anyone has any, feel free to drop them in. If not,
yeah, we can probably talk around that open source question a bit more, can't we? Because I mean, a good example is Backstage. We use Backstage extensively in the Tanzu developer portal, but we do make some unique features available as well, which is why it's unique to Tanzu. Things like the supply chain mechanism, where you can have a look at a supply chain, just as you were demonstrating, Miles, where you can drill into all the individual steps in the supply chain, get that supply chain visualization that you need to understand quickly, where your apps are in their delivery process, and also how it's being configured and various other things. So there's a core of open source in there. You mentioned Cartographer as well, amongst others, but there's also some stuff that we've added that basically kind of demystifies and visualizes a whole bunch of stuff that otherwise would just be going on under the covers that you'd only ever see if you used kubectl or K9s or something of that nature to try and dig into the details. So there's an awful lot in the platform that also kind of demystifies what's going on in particularly in Kubernetes, in the way that workloads are being deployed and managed. And that's important if you've got hundreds, thousands even of workloads. You need that sort of clarity, or the whole sort of system becomes unmanageable, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fair to say that, it doesn't make sense for us to open source 100% of it because some of the things are purely just, integration with other Tanzu products and stuff. It's not necessarily valuable to the community. We do have a whole open source office, and their entire existence and job is around assessing, does it make sense to publish things as open source? Is there value to the community? In doing so, and so that we're not just throwing code out there that's not good to anybody and wasting people's time. But yeah, like we said, 90% of the platform is based on open source technologies, and we've open sourced quite a lot of the core technologies that are in it as well. But there are many ways to get up and running yourself. But I would definitely advise, if you want to try it out, not to try it on your laptop. It's heavyweight. Ben did it for a time. It uses a lot of RAM, especially when it's doing CVE scans and builds and all kinds of stuff at the same time. You probably want to try out a hosted instance. That's really the way it's meant to be used by developers as well, as a hosted service. Think of this as something like Heroku, right? Where it's a service that you use. It's not something that you have locally.
A private version of Heroku or something, where actually it's running on the infrastructure that you chose. But yeah, Mars is right. Don't try and run this locally. I did for a while, but it's just not as productive as it should be. And the productivity comes from the microservice environment that you get with Kubernetes. You can't really replicate that locally on individual machines. Miles, should we have a look at the poll for a second while I just say, folks, please give us your questions. We're hungry for your questions this afternoon. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we've shown you in terms of application platform, but I'm sure that we left something out or that we failed to answer a particular question that you have. And now's as good a time as any to ask it. So go and find the Q&A, drop some questions in there, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Or even comments. I'm glad to see that most people here have either seen a talk that we've done already, God bless their hearts, they came back for more, they're kicking the tires, or they're actively using it. So, I think if you have feedback on the kind of content that we're presenting, if you want more intro level stuff, or you want deep dives on different areas, that would be really, really helpful for us as well, because as we go forward, we're going to do more webinars and this kind of thing. Maybe we'll focus them around some of the areas that you've highlighted here in our questionnaire.
Okay, so we've run out of questions. Tough crowd today. I think folks are either really, really satisfied or bamboozled. Hopefully it's the former, not the latter. But either way, thank you ever so much for your attention this afternoon. We really appreciate it. Marcella, maybe you can close us out.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Miles and Ben. Today's presentation was awesome, and I'm sure they were amazed by everything, and that's why we were able to answer all of their questions ahead of time. So thank you, all of you, for dedicating this time with us. It's amazing to have you here with us. This event has been recorded and will be available on demand just shortly after the end of this event, and along with all of the additional resources that we share with you. Remember, Miles already mentioned it, but remember to rate this webinar and share your feedback with us. Your input is invaluable in our continuous journey to improve and provide even more value content to all of you. Thank you, and we look forward to having you in our next event.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.